reproduction chapter in my
Okay, we'll
exams.
start that chapter today. I'm going to start it today, okay? Yes, you people are not going to switch on your videos? Just one second. All right, students. Also, Maha, tell me, like the whole entire chapter is coming in your exam?
No, ma'am,
Or,
only the asexual part.
oh, amazing. That's going to be like it'll probably be completed today. It's the best part of the chapter. All right, students. So we are going to start a new chapter now, and we'll do side by side revision also. But I don't think you people need the revision because it has been quite some time, and I think all of you have prepared it well. Have you or have you not? Isn't it? All of you. Now, like
Prepared.
I'm not saying that I'll not teach it. If you want, I can continue the revision side by side also. Okay, students. So right now we're going to start a chapter called as How Do Organisms Reproduce? Okay, now remember, as far as the reproduction goes, students, the reproduction, they are of two types. Okay, there is asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Now, the asexual reproduction is the most primitive type of reproduction, in which what happens is that only one parent is involved. There is like the like mother, father, there's no need of it. Only one parent is involved. And if any one parent is involved, we can call it as uniparental. Uni means one. Parental refers to the involvement of only one parent. And in this case, meaning in the case of asexual reproduction, gametes are not involved. There is no production of male and female gametes. There's no fusion. So gametes are not involved at all. Whereas when we talk about sexual reproduction, so in this kind of reproduction, both the parents are involved, meaning the female and the pair, like male parent is involved, and both their gametes, meaning the male and the female gametes, are involved. Meaning the formation of gamete will take place, the fusion of gamete will take place. So gametes are extremely essential when we talk about the sexual reproduction. Okay, students? So this is like the basic difference in between the asexual and the sexual. Now, one more unique property is that, for example, if we talk about the asexual offsprings, okay, offspring means children, right? Meaning the children that are produced, they are called as the offspring. So the offsprings that are produced, in the case of asexual reproduction, they will be exact copy of the parent. For example, if the parent cell looked like this, the daughter cell will also look like this. Exact copy. So sometimes we call that the offsprings, they are clones. Have you people heard about clones? Right? The same copy, isn't it? Like in those I think magical movies that like the villain used to make several clones of himself, like same looking so many people, right? So just like that, the clone is it. Okay, it's like exact copy. So asexual reproduction, or in this kind, the clones are generated. And in sexual reproduction, new kinds of, you can say, new characters are generated in the offspring. It's like slightly different from the parents. Okay. Now, today, our topic of discussion will be asexual reproduction, its type and examples. Now, the asexual reproduction, it is the type of reproduction in which new individuals are produced from a single parent, meaning it is uniparental. And in this kind of reproduction, there is no gamete formation, there's no gamete fusion. Okay, no formation, no fusion. And the offsprings, they are called as clones, meaning they look exactly, they're the exact replica of their parents. Now, talking about the types of asexual reproduction, the first one is fission. Now, fission, mostly you might have heard it about in the case of bacteria, right? Binary fission, you might have heard about it. So, one second, student. Yes. So, when we talk about the fission, so in this kind of asexual reproduction, what happens is that one parent cell, okay, that one parent cell will undergo the process of division, meaning this one cell only will split into two. This would become one cell and this would become another cell, right? Now, students, now normally when we say that um, the living organisms, they are mortal. Do you know what is the meaning of mortal, students?
Ever living.
No, opposite. We the
They
those
have
on
a, they die,
They
they don't
never
live.
die.
they die. Just like how we are, we have to die one day. Same way, all the living organisms, once they have completed their lifespan, they will die. But if you think about this case, this one cell only is splitting into two. So do you think it is
Ma'am, your
mortal?
voice is low.
Oh, is it fine now?
Yeah.
I was saying, so you understood the thing about mortal, the concept about
Yeah.
it? Now, if you look at this condition, this one cell only, it's getting split into two cells. So do you think this is mortal situation or immortal?
Mortal.
How? How?
Ma'am, can you repeat your question?
Because it's gonna split and become new individuals.
Even this will split and form two new individuals. So you, if you think about it, they are never dying. They're just getting divided into new cells. Are they dying anywhere? No, right? See, Gianna, my question was that I told you about mortal, right? The concept about mortality. Now, in this case, I am asking when the cell is splitting into two and becoming two daughter cells. So, here, do you think the cell will be mortal or immortal? Mortal means it will die one day. Immortal means it will never die. Getting the concept? You people are not getting how to see it, right? See, for example, this is a cell. This cell decided to divide and this cell only split into two. Now this cell does not exist like this. Rather, it exists like this. Now these two cells further will divide into two, but they're not dying anywhere. You see that they're dividing, they're splitting. And this is like, it does not remain like that. It splits into two and now these two organisms are there. Now they will split into two and new organisms will be formed. Getting my point? Okay, but don't write anywhere that it is immortal. I'm just like making you think out of the box. So this is what happens, that whenever a cell divides into two, or you can say splits into two daughter cells, that is the kind of division we call it as fission. Okay. Now this fission is of two types: binary fission and multiple fission. Now, talking about the binary fission, this one is the most common kind of fission, and you find it in amoeba, you find it in paramecium. Now, what happens in the case of amoeba? Firstly, like for example, this is an amoeba, okay? It has a nucleus, not nucleus, but the genetic material, right? Now, when it will start the process of division, then from this stage, the cell will remain like this, just like how it was. But now the genetic material will start splitting into two parts, or so you can say start going to the opposite poles. Okay. Then what will happen? Then after that, the genetic material sort of will split into two. One here and one here. So here what we are seeing is that the genetic material got duplicated and it went to the opposite side. Now after this, what will happen? This cell will divide and it will be two amoeba species. Got it? This is how this will happen. So talking about the binary fission, first the DNA divides, right? DNA is dividing, going to the poles, right? It is separating, and then the cytoplasm will divide, resulting into two daughter cells. Is this clear to you all?
Yes.
So this one takes place popularly in amoeba, very common example. Then comes this thing, multiple fission. Now, multiple fission takes place in the case of Plasmodium. Now, Plasmodium is an example of a protozoa. Okay. It is like when you'll go to higher class, like when you'll go to 11th, you'll understand what protozoa is. But for now, just remember that Plasmodium is an example of a protozoa. Okay. Now, what will happen is that in these organisms, whenever there is the onset of unfavorable conditions, okay, unfavorable conditions, you are understanding, students? Unfavorable, something that is not favorable to them, something that is not suitable to them. But if I tell you to think about the plasmodium or think about the organism and tell me what would be unfavorable for it, what would you be? What would your answer be? Which situation will be unfavorable? What is that condition? Tell me. The first thing, the most important thing that will be unfavorable.
Like you mean environmental conditions?
Yeah, and it can be anything. Mostly, it can be environmental condition also. Like not the best, but the most common kind of unfavorable condition would be the scarcity of food. When they'll not have enough food, right? They'll not have enough nutrition, then that can be an unfavorable condition. When they do not have enough space for division, then that can be also an unfavorable condition. So whenever these plasmodium species, whenever they encounter an unfavorable condition, whenever, no matter what kind of condition it is, whenever it undergoes an unfavorable condition, it forms a cyst. It forms a cyst, C-Y-S-T, cyst. Now, what happens is that in that cyst, it's like a structure, a cellular structure that is formed. And inside this, like a cyst, multiple divisions start taking place. So basically, they're like, okay, we are not going to liberate our cells outside right now because it is unfavorable outside. So we'll keep dividing in the cyst only. And as soon as the favorable condition arises, then they liberate. Okay. So you
Can you
see,
explain it again?
yes, I'll explain again. See, whenever there is unfavorable conditions in the case of plasmodium like species, so what happens is that whenever unfavorable conditions arise, they start to make a cyst. Cyst is like a structure. You can imagine it like how those domes are there. Domes. You might have seen again in movie like the protective domes that the villain can't enter, the big spherical structure dome. So just like that, they form a cyst, sort of like a very protective structure, and they start dividing inside the cyst. Meaning they will divide and form multiple cells inside, but they will not liberate the cell. So one cyst is having multiple nuclei, multiple cells in it. And whenever, as soon as the favorable condition arises, the cyst would burst and the cells would come out. Many plasmodium cells would come out. Clear? Binary fission, see, bi means two. So in this, two daughter cells were formed. Multiple fission, multiple means more than two. So here, multiple daughter cells will be formed. Clear, students? Is this clear? multiple fission? So here,
Yes.
one organism divides into many daughter cells. Okay,
So,
and
ma'am,
hmm,
if the plasmodium has favorable conditions, will go under binary fission.
yeah, yeah, it will like divide normally, like how binary fission takes place. But just as soon as the unfavorable condition would arise, it would form multiple fission. Okay. Now, one organism divides into many daughter cells and they are liberated. Liberated, you understand the meaning of liberated? Means released. So they are liberated or released on the onset, on the onset of favorable conditions. So whenever favorable conditions would come, that cyst would be released. Clear, students? Any doubts up until now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Now coming on to the next kind of asexual reproduction, that is
Ma'am,
budding. Hmm?
if the favorable condition never come, what will happen to the cyst?
If the favorable condition never comes, that's not possible that it will never come. But let's just say it did come. Okay. So the cyst will stay like that. The cyst has that power that it can stay as a cyst for a while. Okay. So it can survive like that. But if the favorable condition does not come at all, the organism will die. It will not be able to reproduce. Okay. And do you know why are we made to study reproduction? Like we understand that okay, like some of you may have the ambition to become a doctor and all of that. So studying human reproduction is all right. But why do we study plant reproduction also? Why do we study asexual, meaning the microorganismic reproduction? Have you ever thought about this? Why do we have to study this? What do you people think? Like it's just there, so we'll study. Why do you think we have to study this? Or let me make the question easy for you. Why is reproduction important? Why is reproduction
For um, growth of plants or stuff? Like,
important? Growth? No. For growth, normal cell division is there. Why reproduction is important? Anyone? Ibad, why are you late to the class today?
I had stay back,
You had
stay back,
stay work,
stay back, stay
stay back. What's a stay back?
for school.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
ma'am,
Yes, Jana?
ma'am, to prevent us, like, to prevent it from extinction, so it doesn't.
Yeah. See, the main reason why any organism, whether it is human beings, whether it is dogs, cats, microorganisms like bacteria, why they divide, because to continue their species, to continue the life. If one organism dies, the same organism of that kind would still be present in the world. Or if they'll slowly start to stop reproducing, then they'll get extinct. Okay, that is why we study about reproduction. Okay, now talking about any more questions, students? These steps are clear to you all of the things that we have discussed up until now. All right, now talking about budding. The next kind of reproduction is budding. This takes place in the case of hydra and yeast. Now remember, students, yeast is a unicellular fungi. All the fungus that are there, they are multicellular. The only fungus which is unicellular is yeast. Have you people ever heard about yeast?
yeah,
Where is it used?
yeah, like baking breads and stuff.
Yeah, yeast is used in that because it causes fermentation, right? Remember fermentation, we have studied fermentation. So yeast causes fermentation. Now in the method of budding, what happens? There is an outgrowth formed on the body of the hydra or the yeast, outgrowth. And that outgrowth is a bud. Okay, a bud or an outgrowth is formed outside the body, and this bud develops into a new organism, meaning while being attached to the parent body, it will grow and grow and grow, and then it will separate from the parent and become an independent individual. So this is called as budding. For example, normally this is the structure of whatever you can say hydra. Then a bud-like structure would appear like this. And this will start growing. Okay, and it will keep on growing and growing. And after a while, it will get detached from here and become an individual of its own. Okay, so that is budding. This takes place in the case of hydra and yeast, which is a unicellular fungi. Clear? All right. After that comes regeneration. Now, regeneration, it takes place in the case of planaria. Hydra can reproduce by budding also. Hydra can reproduce by regeneration also. Okay. Now, while I'm teaching regeneration and the next one, pay very close attention. I have a very good question after that. Okay. See, so regeneration takes place in planaria, hydra, and starfish. Now, what happens is that regeneration is the ability of the organism. For example, if the organism is being cut into 3 parts, each of those 3 parts will develop into new organism, the whole organism. Okay. For example, if the organism is being cut into 5 parts, those 5 parts will develop into 5 organisms. So talking about the regeneration, so it is the ability to give rise to new individual from its body parts. Okay, that is regeneration. Then comes fragmentation. Now, fragmentation takes place in Spirogyra. Spirogyra is an algae. Now, what happens in this method? The body of the simple multicellular organism, it breaks up into fragments, and upon maturation, it breaks up into fragments, and then each of those fragments will grow into new individuals. So, for example, if it got broken into 2 fragments, 2 new individuals would be formed. If it will get broken into 5 fragments.
But ma'am, isn't that same as regeneration?
So that's where my question comes along. This is what I was going to ask you all. Both of the steps I have explained. Then how are they different, students? Regeneration and fragmentation. Like there has to be something different that they are studied separately, isn't it? So what do you think is the difference? You can see the text. Tell me. This is for regeneration and fragmentation. What do you think is different in between them? Faizan, why are you late to the class? Has he joined?
Is it due to like a fragmentation, like multicellular organisms break up into fragments upon maturation, but in regeneration they don't have to mature; they just have to cut it for it to.
I'll tell you. What happens that in the case of fragmentation, very good that you've caught on to the word maturation. See, in the case of fragmentation, it is a routine procedure, meaning the Spirogyra like organisms, whenever they'll get matured, they'll break into fragments. Each of those fragments will grow into new organs. But regeneration, it is not a method. It's an ability. For example, if it gets cut by any chance, then it will grow, but it will not use this process as a method of reproduction. See how I've star marked here that it is the ability. It's not a routine procedure. Getting my point, students? How regeneration is different from fragmentation? All of you are understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So that is how they are very different from each other. Both of them sort of look the same because each of them have certain parts, and those certain parts are growing into new individuals. But no, regeneration, it's like a chance process. For example, if they do get cut by any chance, by any accident, or if someone cut them purposely, then they will grow into, like, then they'll regenerate. But fragmentation, it is not an ability, rather it is a proper method. It's a routine procedure that happens whenever the spirogyra like organism would mature, then fragmentation will happen. Clear? Any doubts? No doubts?
Upon maturation, automatically it will break down.
Not automatically, just like how normally the reproduction takes place, right? Like after, whenever new organisms would be needed, whenever reproduction would be needed, so it has to get matured, and when it will get matured, then fragments will be formed, and each of those fragments will develop. So whenever, it's like a proper reproduction procedure. Whenever new organisms are to be formed, this will take place. But the regeneration process, it's not a routine procedure, meaning this doesn't always happen in them. If by chance, due to some predator, if by chance, due to some accident, they got cut into several pieces, so they'll regenerate into the whole entire organism. Imagine if we had the power of regeneration. Imagine someone came and cut our arm off, and then we would grow a new arm. So apparently we don't have this, but I think it's there in the tail of lizards also, isn't it? So that's an ability. Lizard is not a lower organism, isn't it? It's not a microorganism. It's a eukaryote, isn't it? But still it has that ability of regeneration. So remember, regeneration, more than being an asexual reproduction, it is an ability. It's not directly a reproduction type. Getting my point, students?
So, ma'am, the organism that use fragmentation reproduction, how do they know that they have to reproduce after maturation?
Maybe when their cells, like when their, you can say, progeny, some of them would die because of some accident. Some of them got, you can say, sick. Sick in the sense, in terms of lower organism, sick means that slowly their nutrients are being depleted, right? Or maybe some other ocean organism, they ate some of them. Some, they can be food of some organism. So when they ate them, so the population automatically decreases. So now they'll reproduce. Okay. It depends from organism to organism why they reproduce. But see, in them, in lower organism, reproduction is not a choice. They have to do it so as to continue their species, isn't it? For us humans, it's like a choice. If a couple wants to have a kid, they'll have a kid. If they don't want to have a kid, they'll not have a kid. Getting my point?
Ma'am, what do you mean by lower organism?
Lower organism means prokaryotes, right? Those that are not advanced. Getting my point? Any more doubts, students? Only 2 students have doubts in the class. Rest all of you sleeping. Faizan, why are you late to the class? You're half an hour
Mm,
late.
because of my Wi-Fi connection.
Always you have a Wi-Fi problem. In the previous class also you were
No,
late. No, you were late in the previous class also.
what?
You were late in the previous class also. In the previous class also you had a Wi-Fi
The
connection problem.
previous class, I forgot to join. I didn't know whether if I have a class or not.
See, what do I say to you all? You, like, it's up to you. If you want to study, you study. If you don't want to study, I can't make you study. All right, students, now you people can note it down. Then we'll continue.
I'm done.
All of you are done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm done.
Everyone's done?
Yes.
I'm done.
All of you are done, students?
Can it scroll down?
Everyone's done?
Yes, ma'am.